Yeah. Hello, Patriots. Welcome to the Ryan Samuel Show, coming at you live from Southeast/Central Florida. We are here. We got some big news stories today. Erica Kirk, the wife of Charlie Kirk, has been appointed as the CEO and head of the board of directors for Turning Point USA. That is a big deal. We're going to talk about why that's a big deal. We're also going to talk about Barack Obama, who had a couple of things to say about the Charlie Kirk situation, and Jimmy Kimmel. And Jimmy Kimmel has refused to apologize and met with his attorney today about his indefinite suspension from ABC. We're also going to talk about the FCC and whether or not they overstepped their boundaries. We'll be right back.
Hey, Ryan. Hi, this is Sarah Palin.
Ryan, Donald Trump Jr.
Harsh to NC. Hey, everybody, I want y'all to check out a fellow Marine Spawncast.
My name is Ted Nugent, and I got a call from my buddy Ryan F. Samuels, and he wants me to tell you that he's a working hard, playing all-American son of a who is celebrating God, family, country.
Welcome to the Ryan Samuels Show, one of the top political podcasts in the United States, where we have a healthy distrust for government and mainstream media. The Ryan Samuels Show is a raw, unfiltered look at American politics. Follow on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, and all podcast platforms. Here is your host, Ryan Samuels.
Erica Kirk, the wife of Charlie Kirk, is officially the head of TPUSA. This is something that we had anticipated. We knew was going to come. This is obviously a very sad, tragic event, but I am glad it is her taking over TPUSA. Now, Erica Kirk, you may not know this. If you thought Charlie Kirk was a hardcore, super conservative, she is 10 times more conservative than she is. We're going to go over that immediately, in a little bit. Here is the official letter from Turning Point USA. In Ecclesiastes, King Solomon wrote that mankind is to be tested by God. Today we are facing such a test, yet we also know that God has prepared us with everything we need to overcome this ordeal. It was the honor of our lives to serve as board members at Charlie's side. Charlie prepared all of us for the moment like this one. He worked tirelessly to ensure Turning Point USA was built to survive even the greatest tests, and now it is our great pride to announce Erica Kirk as the new CEO and chair of the board of Turning Point USA. All of us at Turning Point USA have a special role in carrying Charlie Kirk's mantle and completing his vision of bringing us all closer to our Lord and fostering fostering a prosperous country for generations to come. As Charlie always said, we have a country to save. We will not surrender or kneel before evil. We will carry on. The attempts to destroy Charlie's work will become our chance to make it more powerful and enduring than ever before. May God bless Erica, the Kirk family, and the entire team at Turning Point USA. Very truly yours, Doug DeGroot, Mike Miller, Tom Sedika, David Engelhardt. These are the board of directors. They have appointed Erica Kirk, the head of Turning Point USA. Obviously, for those of you that are involved and know a little bit about it, she is the obvious choice. It's her husband. They were desperately in love with each other, and she has an axe to grind. They killed her husband, and she is pissed. They killed her husband because of what they both believed in and fought for. So here's a clip of the first time Erica was on Charlie Kirk's show.
My wife joins us, Erica Kirk,
Hi,
the beautiful,
everyone.
legendary Erica.
I love you so much.
I love you.
You're my best friend.
Welcome to the Charlie Kirk Show. We have asked the audience for questions. You pick one.
Who is more conservative and why?
Erica,
Yes.
by far. Not even close. I am a moderate compared to Erica.
Andrew always jokes that once you got married to me, you got more based.
That's true. That is true. No, Erica is very conservative. Do you
So.
think having kids made you more conservative?
100%. Which I didn't think was possible. But 100%. Absolutely.
And do you
And a
think
better wife.
my wife joins us?
So by Charlie Kirk's own admission and her own admission, she is way more conservative than Charlie is. Way more. So if the left thought they were going to stop it, they just dug a bigger hole for themselves. This may very well be the nail in the coffin for the Democratic Party, particularly because it was Charlie Kirk. Had this been anybody else they decided to go after and assassinate, it would not have had as much of an effect. God forbid it had been anybody else. It shouldn't have been anybody to begin with. But Charlie Kirk was the head of Turning Point USA, which is an organization that works with college kids and tries to get college kids to the Republican Party and get them involved in politics early and teach them conservative values. And Erica Kirk is completely and utterly pissed off, and they have received applications for about 55,000 new chapters of Turning Point USA. That's like triple what they have now. So now they're talking about putting memorials with Charlie Kirk with statues of Charlie Kirk and a table for kids to sit down and debate at every college in the country. He has been immortalized, and yes, he is a martyr for the Republican Party. That's precisely what he is. That's precisely what he turned out to be. And the Turning Point USA has received tremendous amount more power than they ever would have, no matter how long Charlie Kirk stayed on. This is Erica Kirk the day that Charlie was assassinated. I commend her for standing and giving a speech that night. I don't know how that she did it, but let's watch this.
Charlie, I promise I will never let your legacy die, baby. I won't. I promise I'll make Turning Point USA the biggest thing that this nation has ever seen. I promise. Oh, Charlie, I love you. I love you, baby. Rest in the arms of our Lord as he blankets you with the words I know your heart always strived to hear. Well done, my good and faithful servant. Charlie, I promise.
So she's never going to let this go. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. And now she's in charge of it. She's way more conservative than Charlie ever was. And she's getting people that are giving her millions and millions and millions of dollars to take Turning Point USA to the next level. I think this is a good thing. I think that it was a good decision by the board and an obvious decision by the board. Let's be honest. We're going to cover that story much more with a lot of focus. They've had some pretty big names on covering for Charlie Kirk, and nobody can cover for Charlie Kirk. I'll tell you, he was probably the biggest name and had the biggest influence on American politics in the past 100 years. 100 years, the biggest influence on American politics, because for the first time in history, he got the youth out, the college kids, to come to the Republican Party and vote for the Republicans and get Donald Trump in office. That's what he had done. That was his mission from God, and that's what he had accomplished. So we covered this last night. We're going to follow up on it again. Jimmy Kimmel is refusing to apologize for his comments. There's a little bit of murky water here, okay? We don't know if the FCC was the one that pushed to get him fired, or it was ABC or them together. We don't know. The left is, of course, screaming that it was the FCC. It does appear that the FCC definitely has some influence, and they should not have. They should not have. The federal government has no business getting involved in free speech. What he said was, what Jimmy Kimmel had said, was that the killer was a MAGA person, which is an absolute lie. However, he has a right to say that. He has a right to lie, and I don't agree with it. I hate it. I don't really care that Jimmy Kimmel's not on the air anymore. I think he's an abhorrent human being. I don't really like him particularly, but what this did is it gave the Democrats now ammunition to use against the Republicans and say, see, Donald Trump is a fascist. See, he's using his FCC to go after people who criticize him, people that he doesn't like. The head of the FCC should have never said anything. The head of the FCC should have stayed the hell out of it. But here is, let's watch this video of Barack Obama. It's a little long. We're going to break it up in parts.
This lately, and frankly, coming from the White House and some of the other positions of authority that suggest, even before we had determined who the perpetrator of this evil act was, that somehow we're going to identify an enemy. We're going to suggest that somehow that enemy was at fault, and we are then going to use that as a rationale for trying to silence discussion around who we are as a country and what.
First of all, the far left ideology is responsible for Charlie Kirk's death. Period. Full stop. End of discussion. Anybody else who says that it wasn't is just, they're lying to themselves, they're lying to you, and they're absolutely delusional. Okay? Full stop. Okay? The left ideology is dangerous. It's always been dangerous. Okay? The far left, you're talking about the Maoists and the communists and the socialists, and that sort of big government mentality is dangerous. It is dangerous. I'm not here to lie to you. And Mussolini invented fascism to run parallel to Marxism. The fascism is also on the left side of the aisle. We could talk about this too. On the right side of the aisle, you have limited government. Okay, but here in the United States, we're seeing government is just completely grown out of control, no matter who the hell is in office anymore, primarily because of leftist Democrat policies. But let's hear what else Obama has to say.
Direction we should go. And that's a mistake as well. And so, look, obviously I didn't know Charlie Kirk. I was generally aware of some of his ideas. I think those ideas were wrong.
He doesn't know any of his ideas. He doesn't know anything about Charlie's ideas. And I think the right and the left, or the left particularly, doesn't know any of the right's ideas because they would agree with half of them. They would agree with half of them. But they're triggered, and he's, full lockstep into say, well, I didn't agree with Charlie Kirk, but I don't think he should have been killed. I don't even know if he says that. Let's listen.
But that doesn't negate the fact that what happened was a tragedy and that I mourn for him and his family. He's a young man with 2 small children and a wife who obviously, and a huge number of friends and supporters who cared about him. And so we have to extend grace to people during their period of mourning and shock. We can also, at the same time, say that I disagree with the idea that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was a mistake. That's not...
He never said that. Charlie Kirk never said the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was a mistake. This is more BS. It's more lies. It's more left-wing propaganda. That's all that this is. It's not. It's fundamentally and wholeheartedly not true. What Charlie Kirk said is that the DEI is a violation of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 because the Civil Rights Act restricts all people from being discriminated against, including white people. So when you take a police officer's exam and you get an extra 5 points because you were a police officer, because you were a black person trying to be a police officer and you get extra 5 points, that's a violation of the Civil Rights Act. That's racist and it's discriminatory. When you hire people based on the color of their skin and prioritize them over Caucasians or whatever, however you hierarchy it, that's a violation of the Civil Rights Act. But then so that argument that he tells is turned into, oh, so you think the Civil Rights Act is a mistake? You think we shouldn't have had the Civil Rights Act? I mean, it's nonsense.
That's not me politicizing the issue. It's making an observation about who are we as a country. I can say that I disagree with the suggestion that my wife or Justice Jackson does not have adequate brain processing power.
He did say that. Because they don't have adequate brain processing power. Michelle Obama's an idiot. Justice Jackson is a moron, and it's not because of the color of their skin. They got, what he's saying is that they got to the level that they are not because of the content of their character or their personal ability, but because of affirmative action, because of DEI. That's what Charlie Kirk is saying. I happen to think that, and that's okay. That doesn't make me a racist. What's racist is the system that is in place that's not based on merit. That's the problem.
I can say that I disagree that Martin Luther King was awful.
Again, he never said Martin Luther King was awful.
I can disagree with some of the broader suggestions of that liberals and Democrats are promoting a conspiracy to displace whites and replace them.
Yes, that's why you have an open border policy. You have an open border policy to let as many immigrants in, because immigrants, particularly ones who are here illegally, typically vote for Democrats because Democrats don't want to deport them. So you brought them in and you shipped them to sanctuary cities, which just happen to be in swing states, to increase your voter roll, your congressional rolls, the amount of Congress people you have. You counted them in censuses. Yes, yes. That's precisely what the Democrats are doing. Now, Barack Obama can sit there and lie about it if he wishes, but that doesn't make it any less true. That's exactly what was happening.
By ushering in illegal immigrants, those are all topics that we have to be able to discuss honestly and forthrightly, while we still insist that in that process of debate, we respect other people's right to say things that we profoundly disagree with. That's how we should approach this. Now, the last point I'll make on this, or building on a point I made earlier, I've been very impressed with Governor Cox in Utah and how he's approached some of these issues. I suspect Governor Cox and I disagree on a whole bunch of stuff. He is a Republican, a self-professed conservative Republican. But in his response to this tragedy, as well as his history of how he engages with people who are political adversaries, he has shown, I think, that it is possible for us to disagree while abiding by a basic code of how we should engage in public debate. I think your own governor here, Josh Shapiro.
Oh, God, Josh Shapiro, what a friggin' disaster. Philadelphia is a shithole, dude. Fix it.
Has done the same thing. When I was president, in the aftermath of tragedies, when Dylan Roof went into a black church.
Here we go. So he's bringing up white supremacy as a problem. He's a very skilled politician.
And based on his own words, shot a group of folks who were engaged in Bible study and who had invited him in. And according to him, it was for racist reasons.
Was it?
As President of the United States, my response was not, who may have influenced this troubled young man to engage in that kind of violence, and now let me go after my political opponents and use that.
See, that's what he's trying to say here. Barack Obama is trying to say that Donald Trump is using the Charlie Kirk death as an excuse to go after his political opponents on the left. There's a problem here. The ideology of the left is primarily what resulted in the death of Charlie Kirk. Dylan Roof killed members of a church. It's horrible. It's abhorrent. That guy's a piece of crap and deserves to rot. But there's a fundamental difference here. This is an assassination of a political opponent. And yes, Charlie Kirk was a political opponent because that's what he did. He talked politics. They didn't like his politics. So the far left killed him. There's going to be a lot more coming out on this. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. I see the signs. I see what's happening. And I don't think that they're going to be able, the left is going to be able to hide it for much longer. I think that the gentleman at the assassination site who sat there and screamed, "I shot Charlie Kirk," to distract the shooter from getting away is a little suspicious. I think that the text message thread that they communicated with each other was a little bit suspicious. You know, I think that the neighbor testifying a lot of people with out-of-state's plates were going in and out of the house, I think that's a little bit suspicious. Do I think that this is like some government conspiracy? No. I think it was more than him that was involved in this murder. And I could be completely wrong. It's a gut feeling that I have, that I think. But for Barack Obama to try to connect Dylan Roof to far-right extremism ideology is completely irrelevant to this discussion. What he's attempting to do is he's attempting to twist and turn a dialogue. But Barack Obama doesn't realize he's not even relevant anymore. Our younger generation barely even knows who the heck he is. He was 3 presidents ago.
George Bush, again, I don't agree with him on a lot of stuff, but he is a good, gracious man, and one of the, I thought, most commendable things that he did after 9/11, the most horrific thing to happen to the United States during the course of my lifetime, in my memory, in the aftermath of this terrible tragedy, made a point. We are going to go after the people who perpetrated this.
Yes.
But he explicitly went out of his way to say, we are not at war against Islam, and systematically and repeatedly talked about how we can't use this as a way to divide and target fellow Americans. And so when I hear not just our current president, but his aides, who have a history of calling political opponents vermin,
oh my God,
enemies,
oh my God,
who need to be targeted, that speaks to a broader problem that we have right now. And something that we're going to have to grapple with, all of us, whether we're Democrats, Republicans, independents.
Is this why you created a fake intelligence report about Donald Trump working with Russia to overthrow the United States of America? There, Barack, that it was proven that you did that?
We have to recognize that on both sides, undoubtedly there are people who are extremists and who say things that are contrary to what I believe are America's core values. But I will say that those extreme views were not in my White House. I wasn't embracing them.
You had some of the most extreme views in American history. Your presidency is what turned the tide of internal strife inside of the United States of America. But oh, Barack. Anyway, but this information campaign is working. This misinformation campaign is working. They came out with a study, and more than half of the country believes that Tyler Robinson was a member of the conservative right. Yes, that's true. Over half. And it's not even close. It's not even close to being accurate. Here's J.D. Vance talking about the White House staffer that's been doxxed by Democrat operatives.
Barack Obama says your White House is dividing the country and you're exploiting Kirk's death to attack Democrats.
We're not exploiting Charlie Kirk's death to do anything except for achieve justice. And I think if Barack Obama, I haven't seen that comment, Jesse, but if he said that, that's absolutely disgusting. What we're trying to do is understand how young people are getting radicalized and who is funding all of these efforts at radicalization. We saw this in the summer of 2020. Now, thank God that wasn't primarily, actually over 20 people died in the riots in the summer of 2020. That is political terrorism. But it's not just the people who are killing the cops. It's not just the people who are engaging and throwing the Molotov cocktails and in the riots. Where was the money coming from? Who was organizing this violent activity? That is not going after Democrats unless, by implication, you're saying every single Democrat is involved in planning political violence. If that's true, then the problem isn't on Barack Obama's side. We're going to get to the bottom of the truth, and we're going to stop the political violence. And we're going to do it however we have to do it, of course, within the constitutional limits that Charlie loves so much.
I love J.D. Vance, man. That guy can talk. He can talk right. He can talk proper. And he can say it what needs to be said the right way. But the notion that listen, I'm not a fan of the FCC going after Jimmy Fallon. Okay, I'm not a fan of the federal government basically doing anything but hanging out and doing basically nothing like it was designed to do. You know, the federal government should not have this much power. Deborah says the left have never, ever been held accountable for their rhetoric. Free speech does not mean no consequences. It's true. I mean, that part is true. Free speech does not mean no consequences, but it's supposed to be consequences free of the federal government. And although they didn't arrest, they didn't arrest, what's his name? They did go after him and force him to lose his job, which is the equivalent of the FBI who went after conservatives on social medias and forced these social media companies to take these things down. It's the same thing. Trust me, I'm a conservative. I'm a Republican. But it's the same thing. The FCC should not have done this. The FCC should have stayed the hell out of it, and we would have pressured ABC on our own. We were already pressuring ABC on our own. The local ABC people have the local distributors of ABC wrote a letter boycotting them. And then the FCC is trying to take credit for it. The head of the FCC is trying to take credit for it. I don't even know if he did it, but it appears that he probably did because he's trying to take credit for it. But the FCC should not be freaking going after people for speaking. They're members of the federal government. No. That's not how this works. That's not how America works. That's not how free speech is supposed to work. Just like the FBI should not have been going to Facebook and Twitter and having people's accounts removed and stealing people's money away from them and taking down their content and their livelihoods from them. It's outrageous, and it was proven through the Twitter files after Elon Musk took it over. See, the problem with big government is that big government always oversteps its boundaries. That's why we want to limit the government. We don't want the government to be too big. Here's the head of the FCC.
No, look, again, broadcast TV is different. We're on a cable show right now. You don't have an FCC license. You don't have an obligation to serve the public interest. Podcasts don't either. Stand-up comedians, whether they're on lots of forms of communications, don't. And Kimmel is free to do that. But if you have a broadcast TV license, that means that you have something that very few people have. And you're excluding other people from having access to that valuable public resource. And it comes with an obligation to serve the public interest. And again, over the years, there's been a rule in place at the FCC that local TV stations get to preempt programming that they don't think meets the needs of their communities. But recently, these national programmers, ABC, Disney, Comcast, NBC, they've been exercising outsized control and power over those local TV stations, and there's been no pushback. And this is a very significant moment because local broadcasters are now pushing back on national programmers for the first time that I can think of in modern history. And that's one of the things we want at the FCC. We want to empower local broadcasters that have the public interest obligation to push back on national programmers so that people have more choice.
So there are a couple of things to take from that. Number one, this is Brendan Carr. He's saying he wants to empower them to push back against the broadcasters. So did you talk to them and tell them that they should push back as the head of the FCC? Is that what you did? Because that's not something that you should be doing. Because you influenced it as a federal official. You influenced it because of words that somebody was using, and thank you, baby, of words that somebody was using, and they were criticizing your administration, so you took it away. That's what it appears to be. Sorry. And if it isn't, the FCC murkied the whole waters and screwed everything up. And they're idiots because they gave the left all the ammo they needed to continue their pro-fascist argument. Here is Benny Johnson talking about it today on News Nation. He allegedly led the charge for this.
Ally Benny Johnson, who led the charge on this and to have Kimmel either fired or taken off the air. Benny, I see you smiling. I think there's a question to be asked here. Is this the free market or is this cancel culture?
Well, let me tell you the background of the story. Perhaps your viewers would be interested in understanding how this actually happened, because yes, this is the free market. And yes, ABC News did the commendable thing here, and they were forced to do so by their broadcast affiliates. Now, I want to frame, and this is very important, Leland, I want to frame what Jimmy Kimmel did here. I like an offensive joke. I like Dave Chappelle. I like comedians that make fun of the right or the left or anyone. I'm a big fan of Kill Tony. This is not about someone telling an offensive joke. This is about somebody crossing the line and creating a dangerous environment, the same style of dangerous environment that got Charlie Kirk killed in the first place. This is what Jimmy Kimmel did. Jimmy Kimmel went on to his audience of millions and said that a MAGA conservative killed Charlie. That's what he said. And then, effectively, by saying that to his audience, he said that Charlie had it coming, because Charlie Kirk is the leader of the MAGA conservative movement. He is a generational voice for our movement. And so as Charlie Kirk is the figurehead saying that he was killed by his own movement, what you are doing is victim blaming Charlie Kirk. One, that's what Jimmy Kimmel did. First sin. Second sin is that Jimmy Kimmel is messaging to his left-wing audience that if you are a left-winger and you target a conservative, if you target a Trump supporter and you kill them, I, Jimmy Kimmel, and the ABC News platform will whitewash it for you. I will ensure that your true motives, which is left-wing violence, This is demonstrable evidence has been provided that this is a left-wing political assassin.
We went through that.
Yep. And so Jimmy Kimmel is lying to his audience. He has a duty, a legal duty. ABC has a legal duty based on their broadcast licensure with the federal government that is lavished upon them by the taxpayer to not lie to their audience, also to broadcast in the public interest. So by doing this, especially on national issues, by doing this, they are in violation of their broadcast license.
See, that's where he loses me. You're right. It's wrong. Jimmy Kimmel lied to the country. But if speech, he's using speech to criticize the Donald Trump administration, and the FCC punished him for it. That's what it appears to be to more than half the country, and perception's reality in politics.
My program said we are going to speak with Brendan Carr about this. We're going to actually use soft power and see what does the FCC think about this. Brendan Carr went scorched earth this morning on my podcast saying that this was truly sick and that Disney and ABC News will suffer consequences for this because this is a malicious lie told about a good and honorable man, the single worst left-wing political assassination in our lifetimes. Now, what happened next? My program and my producers continued to hit the bricks and call local stations, call the local affiliates, and ask if they are going to be broadcasting Jimmy Kimmel, given the FCC's commentary and given the liabilities that Disney has put on them. And a huge compliment to Nexstar and a massive compliment to Sinclair Broadcasting, who both told us in statements that are now public that they are going to end the Jimmy Kimmel Show. They're going to rip the Jimmy Kimmel Show off the air. That took Jimmy Kimmel out of 37 million households. I didn't make that decision. Brendan Carr didn't make that decision. It was the affiliate stations. These are the organizations that own the actual broadcast stations. They manage them. ABC News simply creates the content. And so this is absolutely the free market. This is the local stations declaring that they will not try to defend the indefensible, and they said so in their statements. So this is absolutely 100% justifiable. Sorry for the long answer, but it is important for everybody to understand this is not an attack on free speech. This is not because somebody told a naughty joke that we don't like. This is because Jimmy Kimmel did the indefensible, and he victim blamed Charlie Kirk's political assassination on himself, on Charlie.
It is. The FCC should not have gotten involved at all. Had it just had been Benny and his producers and other podcasters like my show or the Don't Unfriend Me show or independent people on Twitter, if they'd done that, it would have been the free market. They felt pressured by the FCC based on the comments that they used on Benny Johnson's show. That's the reality of what happened. The FCC should have stayed out of it and let us handle it, and the guy probably would have got canceled anyway. But now the left's got that in their pocket that they're using, and they're trying to turn it into fascism. Even though the entire left wing has celebrated every time somebody got fired. But we're going to get into that. But right now, let's watch this CNN clip reporting on the situation.
Breaking news, the White House now has wasted no time in celebrating ABC pulling Jimmy Kimmel's late night show off the air indefinitely. Its rapid response account on Truth Social posting, and I quote, "They're doing their viewers a favor. Jimmy is a sick freak." That's from the White House rapid response team. Ryan Goodman is our out front legal analyst. He's now with me. Andrew Yang and David Frum are also still here. So, Ryan, when you now have had a few minutes here to digest this, to think about the implications, to think about what can be done, what happens here?
So ABC News has a very strong legal claim if they were to try to find some way to sue. This is a clear First Amendment violation. It's interesting to note that
it's not so in the eyes of the law, because the law has become so egregiously pro-government, this is not a clear violation of First Amendment because the FCC didn't actually do anything legally. They didn't file any motions. They didn't suspend them or suspend them because they violated broadcasting breaches or laws or anything like that. the FCC publicly said they don't agree with it, they think it's horrible, and that they should face consequences, and then ABC preemptively removed them. So government did not technically interfere with the speech and punish for the speech. I am talking about the spirit of it. Yes, it absolutely influenced it, but it's not something you're going to be able to win in a court of law. There's not something at all you're going to be able to win in a court of law. It's just something that's never going to happen. CNN is twisting it as they always do. I'm trying to be real with you. Yeah, I think it was wrong. If you remove the head of the chairman of the FCC out of it and place him on the sideline and leave Benny Johnson and other podcasters annoyed and upset and angry and rallying the people to get behind and take them down, you got a crystal clear case, which is what we were on the way to doing until dipshit stuck his nose in the cookie jar.
Just last year, the Supreme Court decided a case in which the attorney generals of Missouri and Louisiana, very conservative attorney generals, tried to bring to the Supreme Court the idea that the Biden White House was pressuring social media companies as to what content they could produce, in terms of like the White House saying, can you please stop doing disinformation or misinformation around COVID? And the key for them was that they had to prove government coercion, and they couldn't because there was no statement really coming out of the Biden White House saying, if you don't do it, we'll do X. This is a clear statement of coercion. So the law would look at
You're
this very
referring to Brandon Carr
unfavorably.
saying easy way or the hard way.
Absolutely. That's one of the most coercive statements possible. It would be a golden piece of evidence for plaintiffs that would want to bring that kind of a case. I would think they would lose 7-2 or 9-0 the Trump administration, Brandon Carr, before the U.S. Supreme Court. It's just such an obvious violation of the First Amendment. And just to think about it, I mean, that's very conservative attorney generals bringing that case before the Supreme Court. They didn't have that kind of evidence. And we're talking about an atmosphere in which the FCC is supposed to be independent of the president. But just within the last 24 hours, it's notable that President Trump said to ABC's Jonathan Karl, quote, I'd probably go after people like you. Maybe I'll come after ABC. So it seems like a concerted campaign in which Mr. Carr is in lockstep with the president.
Yeah, right. And that
Of course he is. He's part of his administration. Come on, man.
that comment was obviously specifically about ABC. So, David, from when you see the response from the White House, right? Did they say, Jimmy, I don't have the quote in front of me right this very second, but I believe everyone, right? It said Jimmy's a sick freak, doing viewers a favor or something along that. There it is. They're doing their viewers a favor. Jimmy's a sick freak. That comes from the White House, David, from the White House of the United States of America Rapid Response Team.
Yes, because Jimmy Kimmel is a sick freak, and he's a shill for far leftist false news ideology. The guy is dog crap.
The meme of the Office TV show where everybody's celebrating. So that's the manner in which this is being handled.
We don't have to speculate about what comes next because President Trump, in his televised speech after the